Well, Feed the Hungry hosted a food giveaway today. It's feeding nearly 200 people.
We want to do something a little different versus just feeding them. We want to empower them and ask them to, to go back to school, to look at job training.
It was a great turnout as over 100 families in need came for help and left with bags of food.
And they say this is just the beginning.
Savannah Feed the Hungry was founded in November 2009 and offers free hot meals, job placement services, and free furniture and clothes in addition to produce to many people. Well before the organization formed, its founder Carl Gilliard had visions of a movement and knew that hunger could affect anyone.
The theme that we have is there are no boundaries to hunger. My mother started doing feedings in her house every Christmas morning. She'd feed the neighborhood, the homeless, and those that were the esteemed. She'd invite everyone in. And it's the same concept that hunger knows no boundaries.
I've been in this community for around 40 years. And Carl Gilliard has become a name that's synonymous with missionary or feeding the hungry.
In the late 80s and early 90s, Carl's name was synonymous with causes such as stopping gun violence and drug use in communities in Savannah.
I've known Carl Gilliard since he was a rapper back in the 80s when he was with Project Love, and they were an activist group also. They would go through the community, and one chant they would have, "We fired up, can't take it no more. Get off the crack and take your neighborhood back."
Carl headed various organizations and initiatives to combat crime in Savannah, including Project Love, Inc., the largest youth organization of its time. In 1995, Carl accepted the call to ministry and was ordained. For 10 years, he hosted a TV show in Savannah and hosted a radio show called Tell It Like It Is on WSOK. It was this experience that landed him a job in the auto industry. Carl continued in the business and worked in sales at Vane Nissan, becoming one of their top salesmen, and moved up in different positions. Things were going well until
they recruited me to go to the mothership, Dan Vayton, and that's where we meet all the veterans that are far beyond better than me. And we did well the very first year, was on my way to becoming Salesman of the Year, and then the recession hit the very next year, and that's when things began to change. And Georgia has this great law that I don't have to give you an excuse for letting you go. And I came in after selling the car, and they said, well, we're gonna have to let you go. We're gonna move you if you wanna move, but we're gonna let you go. So I said, well, God, this must be my way of you're answering my call, because I talked to him every year around December, and I would say to my customers and to my family, this is it.
One day he came home, he was working at Dan Vayton Nissan, and he sat down, myself and my family, and he told us that he had got laid off. And it was like maybe 3 days before Thanksgiving holiday. And we all kind of was sitting there, kind of shocked. That's when the financial woes had came across America.
And at that time, I just bought a new house. We had been, blessed to get into a real good house, and finally to the point of your life where you're seeing things. Just bought a new car. I would always, catch a ride with my wife. My wife, as long as my family were taken care of all those years. And I had to give it up. They didn't take it from me. I just said, I cannot afford this car. I cannot afford this mortgage.
We tried to sustain where we was at and where we was going, and how we was going to make it. And we stuck together as long as possible. Time really did get hard. With that Thanksgiving season, we had a friend who invited us over because we didn't have any money at the time for Thanksgiving. Our funds was low.
I was numb because this happened 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I was numb.
Carl, his wife, and children packed up and left their home on the south side of Savannah and moved to Garden City.
I remember one time my husband was sitting on the couch and he was real low. And I told him that we wasn't gonna leave him, and we was all gonna stay together. And he looked at me, and it was like, we got you. And then I began to get little jobs and try to bring income in.
The most powerful thing that my wife and my children said to me is that we will not give up on you. We're going to stick with you. We're going to walk with you. And that became my legs from being able to collapse and continue to roll forward. And it was probably at that point that I realized I was in the fight for my life. And if I didn't believe, this was a test of my faith.
It was difficult, but we all had to realize that we had to be his backbone, because if we got depressed, we show him our weakness about the situation, he'll get depressed.
Now we get to the point that we meet Elizabeth Omalami, who is Reverend Jose Williams' daughter, and we meet Mr. Omalami. And we, at the time I was president of SCLC, and we were bringing our state convention down, and they said, who do you want the speaker to be? And I said, Dick Gregory and Mrs. Omalami. And so we got what we wanted. At the time, Reverend Jose Williams, from my prior life in college, was my mentor. So I had a promissory to him that I would finish the race. And so when I met Mrs. Omalami, I didn't think about Jose Feed the Hungry. And it was at that time that I knew destiny started connecting. So going through the transition of being in that house, having a state convention, having Mrs. Omalami, we began to talk, and she said, why don't you think about doing something in Savannah? I said, I've always wanted to. So 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, we did Feed the Hungry.
We just walked with him and believed in him and didn't give up. And even with us going without, Feed the Hungry became a life of his own.
In 2009, Carl and his family sponsored a citywide Thanksgiving dinner for the homeless and working poor. After seeing the overwhelming response from the community, it was clear that hosting dinners once a month was not enough. So Carl founded Savannah Feed the Hungry, a nonprofit 501c3.
We realized that there are a lot of more people that are even more less fortunate because they don't have a roof over their head. They don't have a family together because families had broken apart a lot during the recession. So we start Feed the Hungry not knowing what we're doing.
Despite not knowing what they were doing, the family cranked into high gear to help others, though it proved to be a struggle juggling home and the organization.
So when he first came to us about the idea, it was like, are you serious? Because we really didn't have anything ourselves. So we was like, how are we going to go out and feed other people and stuff and, help other people when we need help ourselves?
As kids, for a long time, we was depressed until we kind of got older and we was like, okay, it's bigger than us. Like, it's plenty of people who going through the same thing, but we started seeing the bigger picture.
The bigger picture was to take Feed the Hungry's vision and mission to the next level of outreach. Feed the Hungry worked to aid and restore dignity to the working poor and homeless by moving individuals and families to self-sufficiency. As support and donations rolled in, more time and attention was put into Feed the Hungry, which was a family affair. As the need grew even larger, Feed the Hungry enlisted volunteers to donate time and/or resources to help.
We give away each week. We do no less than 200 bags, but we give away each week from 200 to 500 bags of food, and sometimes more. We do that on Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. But then sometime, if there is emergency, then we do it any day of the week.
I talked to Mr. Gilliard, and he told me about his program that he had for Feed the Hungry. So it sounded very interesting to me, and I had been looking for something to do for my community, and this was a very, very special thing for me to do with him.
I've known him probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I met him through the station because he does work closely with the station. And I just, whenever he needs something, now he just calls and, Nita, I need you. And I'm there with him.
The dinners are the happiest moments because you get to see how everybody comes together. As a family, we all come together into being at the dinners and helping other people, like feeding them, giving them clothes, Christmas time, giving them kids toys. To see it put a smile on their face and put a smile on my face.
Carl understood that Feed the Hungry had to go beyond just the community, but elected officials had to also be held accountable to make sure that the needs of the community and the people in it are being met.
Savannah Feed the Hungry, it empowers the entire community. There are trucks from Savannah Feed the Hungry that come to people like myself in different areas of Savannah, different days out the week. And I see the young kids that go home hungry or go to school hungry. And we have all these resources stockpiled someplace, and it really upsets me. And when we can have people like Savannah Feed the Hungry and Carl Gilliard and their organizations to come together and we all work together, we can do a lot for our kids.
We got to be at the table. There is no excuse when an elected official that's in the top seat in their city tells me we don't have it in our budget. There are contingency budgets. There are grants that communities can collaborate and get. Poverty is one of the biggest essential grants right now in America. The Walmarts have them, the Targets. You can apply through everyone because poverty is a big focus.
We would love to eradicate poverty, but realistically, we know that we did not reach 25, 26% poverty level overnight. We feel that with a job, if people can get a job, a regular paycheck coming in, if people can provide for their families, if people can become better educated, better trained in skills, we equip them with marketable skills so they can take care of themselves.
Port Wentworth is not like any other, it's not like, no different than any other city, you know. Maybe we are in denial that we have people in need, but we have people in need that need hot food, and that type of program needs to be implemented in every city.
At a certain level, there's not anything we can do. Okay, there's a certain level that this we have to worry about the youngest and take that age group and move forward with them, and let's say this is our long-term goal, because that'll take care of the poverty and the crime both, but you have to start at a young age.
We definitely need to look out for the people that we represent, and he definitely represents me.
Feed the Hungry impact has stretched far and wide beyond the city of Savannah throughout many other cities in the state of Georgia. To date, Feed the Hungry has served over 450,000 servings of hot meals and fresh produce. Carl, his family, and the volunteers will continue to grow Savannah Feed the Hungry. Carl understands, just like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did, that there must be a community change to really make an impact, and Carl hopes to continue what Dr. Martin Luther King started in the Poor People's Campaign.
Feed the Hungry goes to the working poor. There are those like Union Mission and all those that do a great job dealing with the homeless. That is not, we are in homeless prevention. We want to prevent the working poor from being homeless. The theme that we have is there are no boundaries to hunger. We also need to send the message that, you know, that there are new faces to hunger, and they look just like you and me. They're the teachers, they're the employees at Gulfstream. My son, who was in the military, was in the military, but he didn't have any food. Families in the military that are in their entry levels that don't have food because of their pay grade. Ways of economic development in reference to that resource center. To expand into about maybe 20 more cities in the state of Georgia, that we can see those cities on their feet, because we will not affect the level of poverty unless we get a system that's working. And what we see is it breaking the barriers of racism, breaking the barriers of classism. When you bring people together to eat and to feed them, you can talk to them then. We, Feed the Hungry, have become the authorities on the working poor because we've been there. Those volunteers have come from all walks of life. It's not one church, it's not one organization, it's not one denomination. It's young people, it's elders. We are truly an army feeding an army.